for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Newberry. Browner.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Lees. Here. Young. Here.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Support.
Motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The agenda is approved. On our consent agenda, we have a total of 9 items. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Can I make a motion to move item 7 out?
Separate discussion. Please. With that amendment, would you still support that?
As amended, yes. Support.
I have a motion and support. All items except for number 7. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, same sign. Those items are approved. Administrators report.
2 items tonight, Your Honor. Talked to Mike Norris, Southeast Iowa Regional Planning Commission tonight. We have 3 projects for our rehab program, 2 traditional rehab or repair programs, and 1 garage that is falling down for that application. They're going to go ahead and submit a request with the normal $15,000. For the garage, however, they're going to leverage the city funds, Great River Housing, Fed Home Loan dollars, and Burlington High School students as well. There may be some additional costs for LMI dollars over above the $15,000 for the electrical, which hasn't come in yet. And suggest that they bring that supplement back when they have that cost. So I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up on that. It's been my updates regarding the garage and the programs, but nice little project for area students and the housing rehab program for one of our residents as well. Then real quick, I've also talked about this before as well. Iowa Initiative for Sustainable Communities. Notice came out, and I submitted a letter of interest. At this point in time, and I have some letters of support as well. We talked about this program before. There's a cost associated with this program, but at the same time, there's a potential for up to 15 different projects that can supplement basically our staff and area agencies through students, professors at Iowa and Iowa State as well does participate for a portion of
good investigation and some help by neighboring departments, a couple from Illinois, so that's working out pretty good. And with the holiday seasons fast approaching, just remind all of our residents that they should have a secure place for their packages that get delivered to their residents, or, you know, just, an uptick on thefts of packages off of people's porches. So if you have cameras, if you want to be part of our cameras listing, just in case we have an investigation in your neighborhood, that's all we would, if we don't have access to them, they just provide us with their video footage. So again, if anybody wants to do that, you can contact me here at City Hall.
Thank you. Sean?
Two things. One, on the building side, it's not me.
I just turned it off. We'll see what happens.
Oh, it's you, Johnny.
On the building side, I just want to remind the citizens, since we got that stuff I don't agree with here over the last 2 days, City Code Chapter 136.06, you have 48 hours to get snow removed from your sidewalks or any ice accumulations, or the city can opt to have it removed at your expense. We charge what the contractor charges us. That's not something we set. And on the fire side, with the time change, I just want to remind citizens to change the batteries in their smoke alarms. Also, smoke alarms only last for 10 years, so you should be looking at the dates that you put them in and replace them if applicable. Any questions?
Just a comment, if I could. John, you wanted to bring back some ordinance changes for council discussion. Maybe we should get together and so we can put that back for discussion. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Shelley?
I did add the attachment, and I'm trying to add the Capitol Theater's presentation, so we may have to have you reboot I'll tell you when, not yet.
Okay.
As soon as it loads.
Okay. Finance, anything on that? No, okay. All right. We have a report from Gina Harden, our Des Moines County Emergency Management Coordinator.
Hello. Hi, Gina.
All right, I was asked to talk about what role do you as City Council play in a countywide disaster. So I'm here to talk a little bit about that tonight. Sean told me I have 5 minutes, so I'm not going to go much over that. But I'm going to give you basically an overview of emergency management and the disaster process. I think it's important you have a little bit of background for that. What is my role in that process, and what is your role? Next steps to take, and then I'm going to be able to answer any questions that you may have specifically to that. As we all know, disasters disrupt lives. They make us feel vulnerable, make our citizens feel vulnerable, deprive them of the resources and the services that they rely on. At a time of crisis, whether it be a weather event, whether it be a hazardous material spill, whether it be a civil disturbance, any of that kind of thing, the community is going to rely on you folks as the local government to help them through the situation and give them assurances that preparations have been made and that their lives will return to normal as quickly as possible. The responsibility for favorable outcomes rests with you as local senior elected officials. My role is to help you with that. Emergency management is planning for and leading the coordination of disaster response to incidents or planned events, basically safeguarding the whole community and returning it to normal. It can be a verb where it is a function where we do the collaborative effort, bringing people together to do planning, training, exercises, that kind of thing. Or it can be a noun where we are actually part of the public safety community and the lead agency responsible for coordinating mitigation preparedness, response, and recovery initiatives to all hazards. So assuming there's a large event here in West Burlington that impacts you, the disaster process is going to go something like this. Disaster is going to happen, whether it be a tornado or et cetera. You have your local responders that are going to respond to the incident and begin to take immediate action to alleviate or stop the, if they can, the incident from happening, or they're going to take immediate action to save lives and protect property. They may realize that they need help, that it's bigger than what they can handle on their own. So they're going to report to the chain of command. It may be according to your city's emergency plan that hopefully you've all read and know by heart by now. They're going to report to you, probably the mayor, city administrator. The incident commander may ask for the city emergency operations center to be opened, depending on how big the situation is. You're going to do a damage assessment, what happened, how bad is it, etc. Then they may request, and all this may happen simultaneously, but they're going to request for additional assistance. They're going to look to their local emergency responders to help them respond to that incident, like Jesse mentioned just a minute ago, looking at his local partners, or what those may be. And that is going to be the quickest mode of action. They're going to do that through DESCOM. And then they're going to look at the regional resources, looking at the Iowa Mutual Aid Assistance Compact, which is also mentioned in your city emergency plan. And then if it needs to go further than that, you need more resources. It's a Parkersburg type incident. The whole town has been struck. You can request resources through the state of Iowa. And in order to do that, you get a hold of my office, tell me what you need, and we try to get you the resources to help you with that, whatever that may be. It could be equipment, it could be funding, or excuse me, it could be equipment, supplies, or people. We can potentially get state individual assistance, but it all depends on what the disaster is, how many people are impacted, and things like that. We can also go to other states looking for resources. If we don't have them here in the state of Iowa, we can look further and beyond that. Then last but least is the federal resources. That's when we call in FEMA, for example, saying we need help, we need funding, we need additional equipment, again, people. FEMA is the last resort, and it takes, I hate to say forever, but it takes forever. It takes a long time if FEMA is involved to get here, to get you the help that you need. They can bring the public assistance potentially, and public assistance is helping out local governments with funding based on your expenses. We can also bring potentially individual assistance, which helps your citizens get back to a little bit of normal. I believe the cap is like $20,000 from FEMA. So if they have damage to their homes, etc. And they can also bring in the Small Business Administration. And that's kind of misleading because it does help individuals with funding to do their expenses, but it also does help businesses. But it is a loan. It is not a grant like FEMA's is a grant process. So your role as defined by the National Incident Management System, or NIMS, is to ensure the continuity of government and initiate your continuity of operations or your continuity of government as required. You already have lines of succession that are outlined on page 8 of your city emergency plan. You can activate legal authorities such as disaster declarations, evacuations based on the incident commander's recommendation. You can set curfews or other protective actions as required. You're going to coordinate with the public information officer as part of your emergency operations center function to keep the media and the public informed. The public information officer, the PIO, is going to be set by your incident commander, whether it be Sean or maybe it's Jesse, just all depends on the type of incident. That way you have one person speaking to the media, and that way you get a consistent message out to your citizens. You can always have, a lot of times when you see these big press conferences, you'll see one person in front of the camera, in front of the mic, but then you'll have other people behind that person. So that is definitely possible to do that, but chances are that person being in front of the media doing that talking is probably going to be your mayor. People are going to look to you as the leader of the city and to have you do that. You can also request assistance from the county EOC or from my agency if the EOC is not open. One of the big things that you will be doing is resolve resource allocation conflicts if needed. In smaller instances, it's not usually a big deal, but in larger instances, when you have multiple things going on and you have limited resources, you as the city council and through the emergency operations center are going to be deciding where do those resources go. Again, it's going to be based on guidance from the mayor, probably the city administrator, your emergency responders as to how that all happens. You're going to coordinate with other senior officials. They may be local, state, federal officials that want to come in due to your incident. You're going to be helping and coordinating with other cities. You know, maybe it's Burlington, maybe it's Danville that's coming in to help, those kind of things. And then you're going to ensure that your city is following all the federal and state requirements. In addition, you guys are going to be responsible for approving emergency funding allocations, tracking those costs, because that'll be really important if FEMA does end up coming in, because it is a reimbursement process. You have to have everything documented. So I know Jesse and Sean are always tired of me saying, like, start tracking your expenses as soon as anything happens. You need to know that. One of the major things that we're going to need you to do is make quick decisions. It's not going to be time to call a council meeting and make those decisions. Whoever is in your emergency operations center, or maybe they're in the county emergency operations center, that person needs to be able to make decisions quickly and obligate the city for those decisions. You're not going to be at the command post. You need to be here again in your EOC or available via phone, etc. You hire your emergency responders, and even Mike can be considered an emergency responder during some type of incident, depending on what it is. You're going to follow their direction. That's what you're hired them to do. Your role is not to set incident objectives or direct the tactical response. Rather, you're delegating that to them. You're going to let them do that because they're qualified to handle that and will manage that very well for you. The incident command post is going to be established by the incident commander. He or she, depending, will set up where that is going to be. They'll take a look at the incident, they'll see how big it is, where they need to be, where it's a safe place to be, so they will set up that location for you. I'm not going to say that one of you might not be in the command post. It's possible that Mayor Teeter may say, it's like, okay, you know, we need you to go to the command post and be our liaison back to the Emergency Operations Center. So you have that connection between the two. Your role is further defined in the City Emergency Operations Plan. You have a basic plan which covers your purpose, concept of operations, organizations, and roles. It has functional annexes that provide direction, control, emergency public information, resource management, etc. And then also hazard-specific annexes with the checklist to follow. In reviewing the plan, the one I have is from September 2006, and then Kelly sent me one with just a few minor updates. it is really good. There's some minor changes that need to be made with phone numbers and et cetera, and I'm going to work with her on that over the next few months to get that done. But otherwise, I think it's a really good plan. So, so basically, the next steps, you all need to be thinking about what is your emergency plan? What do you have in place for your family? Same thing we tell the general public. You need to have that emergency plan. You need to be looking at your family's personal needs. Do you have small children? Do you have small grandchildren? What are their needs? Do you have an elderly family member living with you? Are they on oxygen or do they need power for another medical device? And what is your plan for them? So you need that emergency plan. Have your emergency kit. We talk going into winter. Have a kit for your car. What are you going to do if you lose power? And having that emergency kit with extra food and water and blankets and etc. And lastly, make sure that your family knows what to do if you're not there, if you can't be there. If you have to be up here at City Hall because of this large disaster, are they going to be able to take care of themselves and know what to do back there? So make sure that that's all in place. And then review the city emergency plan. Recommend at least once a year, if not more often. Lastly, if you haven't already, the National Incident Management System, or NIMS, requires you to take certain classes. If you do not take those classes and your NIMS officer, which I believe is Sean, doesn't have those on file, that could make you ineligible for federal grants. So highly recommend that you get those done if you haven't already. There is a short 1-hour class, Independent Study Class 908, that talks about emergency management for senior officials. It's about not quite an hour long, and I'll send Kelly the link to that so that she can get that out to all of you. Highly recommend that you take that class just so that you're just kind of aware what emergency management is, and it covers what your role is also. Additional training, you as the elected officials need Incident Command System 100, which is an introduction to the Incident Command System, and ICS 700, which is introduction to NIMS. Those are required of you as elected officials. They really don't take that long. They're independent study. I believe you can start them and then stop and then go back to them if you need to. Incident personnel, fire, law enforcement, public works, there's certain NIMS classes that they are required to take, including the 100 and 700. Those that are in the leadership positions of your departments, they need 300 and 400 incident command classes. And those are in-person classes. You cannot do those online. So all of those people need to have those. And then you should have training for public information and your public information officer, and then also training on Emergency Operations Center operations. I can help you with those, or Sean can definitely help you with those as being a NIMS officer. Did I miss any, Sean?
When are we going back to Maryland?
How about fall of 2024?
No.
I was thinking something like early spring, January of 23.
No.
Good answer.
You can talk to the new person about that. So basically, during a crisis, you are going to be providing that leadership, and you're going to be providing that information to your local citizens. You're going to be delegating your authority to on-scene responders. You're going to be installing the confidence in the public that the incident's been managed, and is being managed being managed effectively. You're going to make policy decisions and secure the needed resources, equipment, funding, whatever that may be. And you're going to be building those partnerships and alliances to make the incident, to respond to the incident and get your community back to a pre-disaster situation. So your role is policy making. It is not operational or tactical decision making. You need to let your incident commanders take charge, make those, and handle the situation and be in the thick of things. This is going to free you up to make the policy decisions that are important to your community. And lastly, large incidents are going to take time. Nothing ever goes quickly. We had the incident in Yarmouth up there. We were up there, I think we ended up there 2 full days. And then there was multiple days after and weeks after where we were still dealing with the response and recovery from that incident. And that was just a relatively small area-wise incident. But if it's something major would happen to here in the city, here such as Parkersburg or Joplin or something like that, it's going to take time for you guys to respond and recover and get back to the normal. I'm not sure if that's what exactly you were interested in finding out. I guess questions, comments, concerns that you have? Melanie, you look kind of confused.
I'm happy you showed up. I'll be honest. I took to heart the training we went to in September up in Waterloo, and they said, don't be the first time you meet your people, your incident coordinators and folks like yourself at the emergency. So it's like, that's what I took from that. It's like, well, let's get Gina Hart in here to talk to us. So at least it helps me feel like I've done a little more my responsibility as an elected official for West Burlington. And I think it's raised awareness. I've been in council a year and a half, and I haven't read our book yet. I mean, I should have. It doesn't look too big, too thick.
Your emergency operation plan? No, it's not too bad.
I can do that,
Sit down
but I
and
haven't
read.
done it. So now I will. So anyway, I appreciate you coming. I want to say our role is a lot of common sense, but in the moment of a crisis, common sense doesn't feel so common. You don't know it. We have professionals who are training on this all the time. We need to rely on them. We have to provide the leadership and the, like you said, policy to, okay, who does what type of stuff. So
Exactly.
no, my look is just a pensive look to let you know I'm paying attention. Thank you.
Well, hopefully it's nothing you even have to worry about, but you know it's going to happen someday, some way, something is going to happen.
Yep.
So, but you have great leaders of your departments. They do a great job. So, other questions? You guys are awful easy on me.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks
thank
for
you.
coming.
You do have a copy in your handbook.
Certainly I do.
If you guys want to go in and reopen the packet, the link,
Just hit the refresh.
you can try to hit the refresh just and see if that works. I added the Capitol Theater's PowerPoint.
Mine came off.
Start over. Okay, start over. Got it.
Yeah, it's there, I think.
Should see a link.
Yep, there's a
Got it,
link.
I got it.
Okay.
It's under council and staff reports. Thanks.
Okay. Go through council. Andy, do you have anything for this evening?
Not tonight, thank you.
John?
No, not tonight.
Patrice?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Melanie?
No, thanks.
Okay. We have an additional community report by Tammy McCoy on behalf of the Capital Dream Behind the Curtain campaign.
All right, good evening. I'm Zach James. You probably know me because I've been here before as Assistant Director, Southeast Iowa Regional Planning Commission, but I'm also President of the Capitol Theater. And we're here tonight to talk a little bit about our Dream Behind the Curtain campaign. I'm going to go over a few things, and then I'm going to turn it over to Tammy to talk a little more detail about some of the specific things we're looking at doing. But we didn't get a time limit, so we're just going to go as long as we want. Kelly didn't tell me how long to go here, so we're just going to go for all night.
4 minutes and 28 seconds.
I'm already 32, dang it. All right. Just a little bit of hit. All of you, any of you been to the theater, just out of curiosity?
Yeah.
All of you, some of you?
Yep.
Yeah, all right, great, good news. Just a little history. So the original theater, the main theater building was built in 1937. It was a 500-seat movie theater, closed in 1977. I believe, if I remember this right, the last movie there was Stephen King. Was that Stephen King movie? Carrie was the last movie that was played there. It was closed for several years, and then a group of local citizens in the early to mid 2000s kind of got together and started dreaming up some plans of what it could be, purchased the building initially, and then eventually purchased the building next to it also. And after some fundraising campaigns in 2010, raised $1 million, and then that was able to match a state grant through iJobs, I believe, was something that the governor at that time passed after the 2008 floods. And that helped renovate the main theater building and then the first floor of the building adjacent to it. And here we are. So that's been 80, this year is actually the 85-year anniversary from that original opening of the theater, and then 10 years in July of when it reopened 10 years ago. So celebrating some big things. So this year we're also making some big plans. So we have this Dream Behind the Curtain campaign that we're just kicking off here to upgrade the Capitol, not just from really we're just kind of an entertainment venue. We have live music, comedy, theater, local dance organizations, just some events, things like that, just random things. Gina left, but I know she's had some training and events there. What's that?
Yeah, she does the weather spot.
Yep, so I mean, just community events like that. F&M Bank every few months has, I go to those almost every time. I can't think of what it is, Navigator
Travelog
series or something like that. Yeah, we have Travelogues. I mean, just all kinds of different events that we do there. But for the most part, we're really focused on the entertainment. And so this project that we're looking at doing is to do some renovations a little bit on the main floor of that annex building, the one that was adjacent to the original theater. But it's the second floor of that building that is kind of our big primary project that we're looking at doing to really expand some things. And that's really going to go from, our idea is really just a kind of an entertainment venue to really kind of a performing arts center, and really focus on 3 pillars. And the big change for us is really about education, performing arts education, continuing that entertainment piece, and then really turning also to us creating social connections in our community, bringing people together to interact with each other. And Tammy will talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. So really what our goal is right now, we have I should say right now, our long-term goal for everything we want to do with this, because there's things beyond just those construction improvements, is $2.5 million. But our specific focus right now is on these 2 construction projects. It's $1.5 million price tag. And our goal is to hit that in early 2023. We're a little over halfway there as of today, as we got a nice donation that came in today. So put us over that halfway mark. I put some slides in here, or we put some slides in here that kind of show this construction project a little bit. So the first one shows a floor plan. You probably have to zoom in a little bit to really see this, but I wanted to highlight what the plans are. This is that second floor of the annex building. So this is where we want to add a black box theater. So it's a kind of a smaller, more intimate space that we can do some of those more entertainment pieces that don't fit in our current theater holds 367 people. So there's some events that just aren't set up to do that. So it allows for that flexible space for smaller events, but also gives us a better space for community events. But then this, along with the other components there, really adds to what we really want to expand is our education programs. So that's a space that we can use to do a lot of our education programs in. And then if you go to the back, there's also a smaller kind of classroom size space. I can see projected around 100 to 125 people. So towards the back, there's another classroom style space for about 20 to 25 chairs in there that we can also use for other classroom type space. And then there's other individual practice rooms. So those are for like music practice, instrument singing, things like that. Or potentially we can use it for other flexible type space too, like we've talked about people. Podcasting is a huge thing now, so you can have a little space that's a quiet, dedicated space for something like that. But that project really gets us some flexible space to use for all of these things and really grow our education programs, but just flexible space that our community gets to use as well. So the next couple pages, There's a picture of the existing space of what it looks like today, and then kind of a little mock-up 3D sketch of just a really rough sketch of kind of what the idea is. So the first one is that's that black box theater space. And the idea is, again, it's supposed to be a flexible space. So in the picture there, it shows kind of where there's maybe a center stage and the chairs around it, but the idea is you could set it up where you have a stage at any side in the middle, or you could just get rid of the stage and it can be a wide open room for different programs. So meant to be a really flexible space. And then the bottom one is that other kind of smaller classroom style space. Again, it just kind of shows where you've got some chairs set up, maybe some kind of black, I was going to say call it a chalkboard, but yeah, whatever you want to. I'm trying to think.
Dry erase board.
Yeah, dry erase. I'm trying to think. My wife's a teacher. They got the the
smart board.
Smart boards.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, those types of things and stuff like that. But again, flexible space can be used for a lot of things. It shows mirrors on the one wall. We have a lot of the local dance organizations come and they just take over the theater for a week at a time, and they use every inch of space in there. They don't have enough room. So having space like this just for those types of events would be fantastic. So, that's generally what we're trying to do then. That's all the second floor space. I don't have any. We're working on renderings then on the main floor. And that one's more focused on some of the entertainment, social connectedness, where we actually got a bar donated to us from a local Oddfellows crowd from the late 1800s. That we've had installed in there. It's just the back of it. And so we're working on some renderings and some plans to actually transform the annex space into essentially like a social club, I guess we'll call it. The Capitol Lounge is what we've been calling it. So a place, right now when we have shows, people come in, they come to the show, but they usually leave. So we're looking for a space that people can hang out before and after shows, but we don't have shows every night. So on weekends, it could just be a space that's open for people to come and hang out. And then we also want to do some creative things like we talked about a listening lounge. We'll have like a record player. People bring in kind of a select type of music and play that during an evening and kind of tell you about who the artist is and give some history or things like that. Or have local jazz music, people playing music, things like that. So that space would be more of a social space and really, hopefully for us, a revenue maker long-term for sustainability. But all of these things together really come back to these three pillars that we want to accomplish: increasing education, focusing on our entertainment, economic impact, and social connection. So I'm going to turn it over to Tammy, and she can talk a little bit more about that and the things we're trying to accomplish there. Don't we have all night?
Okay. I will keep it brief. The Capitol Theater has been around, like I said, 85 years. We tried to reopen it, and it's been this roller coaster ride. Because when you try to open a place like that and rely on volunteers and rely on only income from film and live performances, it's very difficult to keep a place like that open because you just can't make enough money to keep going. So that's why it's been this roller coaster. So the idea behind this is to create a place that is sustainable on its own. The business plan includes education, not just because it will help keep the doors open, but also because I think that our area could use a performing arts focus where children, through adults, can come and learn something new. It's really good for our brains to learn something new all the time, so why not learn to sing or play an instrument or learn to dance or act in a play or something like that. So we are partnering with SCC. SCC has a lease, an active lease with us, and that will increase as the renovations go when they have more space to utilize. But it will be not just their performing arts students, it will also be their business students, their marketing students, their graphic arts students, maybe even some hospitality. And so this is going to be a fantastic opportunity for SCC students to be able to work in a real working business and also to learn. And bringing kids opportunities that they wouldn't have just in the classroom. And then in addition to the SCC students, we're going to be offering things for just local citizens, like children as young as preschool. We are looking at offering kinder music, School of Rock, Girls Rock, songwriting, dance, theater, all kinds of different classes before, after school, during the summer for camps, different things like that. These are all really important things to offer if we want to bring people to our community. If we're trying to hire someone at any place here in the community, they're going to be more interested in coming if there's things for their family to do. And I believe this is something that will really add greatly to the value of living in this area. And so that's why we're coming to you. Also, in addition to the education, entertainment's going to keep going like it always has, and we're going to just add to that. We're going to really be focusing on a lot more local entertainers, just to support the talent that we have in this region. And then finally, with the social connection, as Zach talked about a little bit in the Capitol Lounge, it will be a cocktail lounge, but it will also be a listening lounge. It will be a great place for people to come and just learn about the song they're listening to, but also just visit with the person they came with and just enjoy themselves. And what the plan is, while we're having, it'll be like Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays we'll have that open. And the plan is to have a kids club at the same time upstairs in the black box area, or the practice area up there. And they will have a little kids club where they'll do, maybe learn to play an instrument or do a little short play or do something performing arts related as an activity and something to do while parents maybe can go out to dinner or go down to the listening lounge. So trying to make this something so that families can get out and do things. Social connection is so important right now, especially after we had to go through so many months of not being around other people. I feel like this is an important asset to our communities. So, do you have any questions about all of that?
I specifically, today, Tammy, do you have what SCC students or programs are active down there today, or what tie-ins you got?
Today we have a music theater, we have theater, and we have some of the jazz students kind of come down and played a little bit, but not nearly as much as what their potential is. We really need that upstairs space renovated in order for them to access and utilize as much as the Capitol as they would like. We are working very closely. In fact, the music director at SCC, Daniel Pappas, is we have 3 spots on our board for SCC members because of the lease agreement, and Daniel is one of them. And he has been very active in helping us develop the programming because he wants to be very hands-on, not just with his students through SEC, but during the summer working with other students, maybe younger kids. He also helped me get started with a program. He wants to do like a jazz featured workshop, kind of like writer's workshop in Iowa City, only in jazz. He wants to become a regional draw for that. And so last year in April, we started, we brought a company from New York called Jazz Reach, and they're coming back again this year. And that was offered to Burlington students because the Burlington Education Foundation gave us a grant to help bring that company in. I would love to extend that to West Burlington students because it was a fantastic program and the kids loved it. It was free to all of the kids, and at night it was free to any adults that wanted to come and listen to the jazz performance. They talked about the history of jazz, but they also played some jazz, and it was really a great night. And that will be turned into a year-long program with Daniel, and then it'll end with this Jazz Reach every April. So some fun things that we're doing.
You mentioned the board. Are there any West Burlington residents on the board that you know?
I don't know where everybody lives.
I don't know where everybody lives either.
I don't know where everybody lives. That is a very good question. But, we'd welcome.
I'm just saying. I was just thinking. Yeah, anyway, to have a little bigger reach.
Careful, you're going to get yourself on another board.
No, if it's the right thing to do, Andy. Stand next.
We do have two.
We do have we have three representatives from SEC, and then I guess
we're inviting.
We're looking at adding 2 people that are actually employees at Great River potentially for next year. But I don't know I don't know where they live.
So we don't know if they're residents, but we have West Burlington people who work in West Burlington that are on our board. So yeah.
Gotcha.
I just had one question. Just if a local community group, use a United Away, for instance, wanted to come in and do some kind of program in the Capitol, is that possible today or through these developments? Is that something that's done already?
Okay. Yes, and it has been. So we We do rent the space to different organizations that want to have like private events, or businesses that want to rent it for their own employee appreciation or whatever it is they want to do. Weddings. I'm sorry, I'm operating on 4 hours of sleep last night, so excuse me. Showers, different things like that, graduation parties, different things. But like when Gina was here, we do the weather spotters, and I don't believe we charge for that. I think for a nonprofit, we have a reduced.
We have a nonprofit rental rate
Yeah.
that's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we encourage that. So, and with the renovations, you know, right now the big theater seats about 350. The new black box theater will seat about 120, and it's flexible, so we can move that stage wherever works for whatever program is coming, or take it right out of there. It could be tables and chairs in there, or it could just be chairs like this. So very flexible, and a little bit bigger space than what we currently use for rentals. Currently what we use for rentals is the main floor annex that you see. That's where the lounge is going to go, and that only seats 74. And that will be less when we add tables and chairs and stuff for the lounge. So upstairs, it actually gives us more space for people to use for things like that.
Thank you.
Tammy, today, how many people do you employ, or does the Capitol employ?
Well, we have like 4 people that are trying to do the on-site management, so that and they're all very, very, very part-time. And the reason we have so many is because not any of them this is not their only job, and so they're going with their own other work schedules. So right now I'm the only full-time, but I'm getting paid a whopping $1,000 a month for what I do, because I want the Capitol to be successful, and so we are trying to build up a business that is successful and sustainable and gives something back to the community. So we eventually would like to employ an on-site manager, a lounge manager, programming manager. You know, we're going to need these people. And then we have a big volunteer group. We just talked to someone today who had an excellent idea of opening up a senior citizen intern program, where the people who are older and retired and need something professional that they feel good about doing, we can bring them in and they can start utilizing their skills and maybe doing something there. So I think it'd be a really fun thing. So.
John?
So at the end of the day,
Need from us.
we'll need to add a discussion item on the agenda if council wishes to do so. The city of Burlington, if I'm correct, contributed $75,000, $25,000 over 3 years.
Yes.
Yeah, so we made a request at the city of Burlington. They've committed $75,000 over 3 years. We actually have a request for $25,000 to Des Moines County. That I don't know what they're going to give, but they're supposed to vote on something next week. And essentially what we're coming today is present this to you. We're not looking for any type of decision today, but we wanted to invite you, maybe if you want to learn more, to come and do a tour and actually see some of the stuff. And then, make a request. I don't know if you have a certain amount you would be open or willing to do. But $75,000 is what we asked for the city of Burlington. $25,000 is what we asked from Des Moines County. And one of the things too, we're actually looking to apply for 2 grants, one in December, one in January. And both of them have a portion of their scoring to kind of local organizations, government entities that are contributing. So having multiple local government organizations committing would be really beneficial to the scores of both of those applications. So it would look really good. So just not that that's like a pressure for you to do anything, but just that it's out there that is something that we are looking to apply for here in the next couple of months. So, but yeah, if you have any questions for us about that or want to come for a tour, Tammy, and I don't know that Nick introduced himself yet.
I'm Nick. I'm with Convergent Nonprofit Services, and we help organizations like Capitol raise money for projects. The only thing I was going to add about, the City of Burlington chose to make their payments over 3 years. We can actually accept payments over 5 years. So just to keep that in mind, as you're looking at your budgets and things, they chose to do 3 years. There are plenty of commitments that are over 5 years.
So in closing, I think if you have more questions, that doesn't mean you can't ask, but I just want to share a statistic that I feel is very important that we all know. Children up to 5 years old test, 90% of children up to 5 years old test highly creative. By the time they're 7, only 10% test highly creative. And by the time you are 8 years old, only 2% of the population express their creativity. And I find that to be very sad, because creativity is part of being human. Music is part of our lives. If we want to enhance something, we add music. And the performing arts are so important to express ourselves. And through music, through instruments, through dance, through theater, children are able to express that creativity. And I think adults need to do that as well. It's a very sad statistic. And I think by opening this Performing Arts Center, we can invite people to challenge that and maybe awaken that creativity. And wouldn't that be fun? So, thank you for listening. Thank you for inviting us. I really, really appreciate it.
Hey, Tammy,
Thank you.
could you give me those?
Thanks for,
Tammy, could you give me those figures again, 5, 7, and 8?
Yes, so at up to 5 years old, it's 90% of children test highly creative. By the time they're 7, it's only 10%. And by the time they're 8 and through adult, it's only 2%. Those were statistics I got back in early 2000s, I would say. So I don't know if they've changed, but that's what it was when I looked it up a long time ago.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, at this time, do we have any citizen inquiries for items that are listed?
thank you, thanks, guys.
Thank you. That are listed on the agenda? If not, then we'll move into new business. Consider a final reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 79 by establishing a no parking zone on Division Street from Broadway to South Gear Avenue.
Motion approved. Support.
Motion and support. Discussion? If not, then,
There's a heck of a lot of cars parking out there right now. What's our plan?
The
Parking
concrete's been being poured, parking lot's being installed, permits.
They'll probably be
Been
parking
done?
at Cobo next week. Cement went down yesterday, the final cement went down yesterday, so by the time they let it cure, they should be parking on it by next week, so that means,
Ordinance isn't effective until it's published.
Borgie would be the only ones on that, should be the only ones on that street, I'll say should.
Sean's talked to them about parking as well, back on their gravel parking lot that's not supposed to be there as well.
I've expressed to them that they need to expand their parking lot because they're part of the problem, not the solution.
And the
That's-
answer is,
Yeah.
with them, what are they saying?
Kind of the same response we got from, I can't say the guy's name, the Cobo guy that was here. When he was here, how they have to talk to Italy about the funding and that. Got the same kind of response run around that way. But Cobo did a great job. They got the funding. They moved forward with the project, and I anticipate them being off the street by next week.
Do you think Borgie has enough room currently to move everybody that's parking on the street up and they're just not? Or are you saying next week they're in trouble?
When I drove by today, nobody from Borgie that I could tell was parked out on the road. It was just Cobo. But
For the most part, there's been maybe one or two from
couple,
Borgie.
I mean, at the most I've seen at Borgie is half a dozen cars at the most. But it's been Cobo that's been the big, and their parking lot's done, so about done. But they were both aware of the situation back in the spring when we originally discussed this, so once it gets posted, we can enforce it, so.
so it'll be up to Mike to post those signs, right?
They're
Mike's already posted the sign. I'd get the post in before the ground froze. And they've already seen the signs, and a lot of them moved when they saw the signs, so
Okay.
all well aware the signs are up. You just have to start enforcing it.
I talked to Mr. Ferrari too, and they were going to post signage inside the facility as well and remind folks about parking, so.
So the effective date of this will be,
Once
we pass?
Once it's
As soon as
published.
Once it's published. You can also say effective on a certain date.
To just be, I'd say 1 December. I mean, just let's be clear and make it easy, and we've been so understanding, but it's time to just be openly communicating that they need to not be there. It looks like we're on that path.
What's the last response we had from Borgie officially on their parking? I mean, have we got a corporate response of?
The last response we had was related to the illegal parking that they created in back. They still have a number of ongoing issues out there as well, and another cost associated with those recent problems or issues.
So walk me through. We started talking about this and went through 2 readings. What communication did we send out to Borgie?
We don't send out anything. And I think
We
Jesse
did.
talked to them directly, but the city doesn't send out anything saying that we have an ordinance in place.
Well, we talked here. Yeah, we talked and we
I think
had,
personally, we did ask. I
you
think Jesse
did contact them.
I
Yeah,
did
and
not.
Mr. Ferrari came here, presented to us, asked for more time to go through their budget cycle. We gave him more time. That's the summer. No,
But that's-
Cobo, I'm sorry,
that's
Cobo, you're right, Mr.
But-
Ferrari's with Cobo.
But we did the same for Borgie.
Yes.
At the same time.
Right.
The same
So-
conversations.
So they
and
were well aware.
Yes.
Yeah.
But nothing since then.
I did speak to them on my last trip over there. I was actually over there with street department on a different matter, but I addressed the rock that they put in the back, explained that they can't be doing that. And at the same time, I expressed that they need to expand their parking to get off the street. I did mention that the city is looking at the time I said, looking at an ordinance prohibiting parking along the street.
There's many issues that they are not following through with yet at Borgie. Broad monthly types letters, they're still not doing sampling. They've been talked to over and over. They don't want to be in compliance with a lot of things.
And at the time, they were really a small portion of the issue as well. I mean,
Yeah.
2 cars, yeah.
And most of the time I go by, when you see a couple of their cars out, there's spots in their parking lot for it. Now, I'm not saying maybe sometimes they have a 3rd shift when they don't always have a 3rd shift or something like that, but,
I'm assuming we
all
haven't
I'm saying is they're well aware of a lot of issues and they keep choosing not to address them.
Yeah. I wish we had some kind of formal, if we're thinking about this and it directly affects this business, I wish we had this is how we notify them, this is the, hey, certified mail 30 days before this, just a sequence so we show we've done our due diligence in following up with them. If they didn't do their part, that's on them. But that we can show we followed what we've set as our guidelines for doing this.
But Andy, we kind of did that. We just didn't have
We did more than we typically would for an ordinance consideration.
yeah.
And I
And
also think along the fact that in our city ordinance, it states we follow the building code, and per building code, and even in our city code, in 16519, you have to supply parking spaces for every employee.
On site.
On-site, off-street parking. It specifically states off-street parking. It's in our city ordinance under 16519.
It's just one of many ordinances, like I said, that they refuse to follow.
but the worst part of it, they never replied back. After we talked to them, they never, was concerned, or am I wrong?
They never
Did they ever call City Hall and say,
They never reply back about their failure to follow their DNR permits and codes and testing either, when they get letters monthly for many, many months.
It's us contacting them repeatedly.
There was a friendly amendment to have this effective December 1st. Is that acceptable with the council?
It's gonna be very close to that.
Yeah, anyway.
Anyway, all right.
I mean,
But if you want to descend a real hard date, we ought to put that in there. That way, everybody's on the same track.
And I would sure like for somebody to go out and have a very nice conversation with them and just give them this and make sure they know about it like tomorrow, that this is coming.
And we could do that. I think we could very well do that. And see what that response is. But it's not going to change my vote because they've had many, many times and they haven't responded back to us. And
I'm with you. I just don't want their first official notification to be us towing a car away.
Yeah.
Right? So let's go put it in their hands and make sure they know.
I think that could be done.
I'll call for a roll call vote here in a second.
So are we going to put a date?
December 1st is
December 1st.
what's proposed.
Okay.
I'll second that if you need it.
Thank you. Roll call?
Johnson?
Aye.
Lees?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
Crowner?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. Consider the final reading of an ordinance adopting airport approach regulations.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion and support. Discussion? If not,
Let's get the one change I need.
okay. Roll call vote on this?
Lees?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
Crowner?
Aye.
Johnson?
Motion carries, thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
Let's see. Consider the first reading of an ordinance establishing water utility rates effective January 1st, 2023. Consider a motion.
I motion.
Okay, so move.
Support.
Motion and support. Thank you. Now, discussion on this?
None of us like it, but there's not much we can do. I think is what you're hearing.
That's what I was wondering.
That's what you're not hearing.
Yeah, this one, not.
I think we came up with a bit of a compromise
Yes.
zone when you get done.
I'm at least happy that we're going to be paying, or making enough money for our payments that we have to have, so. Seeing no other discussion. Roll call vote?
Young?
Aye.
Crowner?
Aye.
Johnson? Lees?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. Okay. Approve TIF debt certification for fiscal year 2023-24.
Motion approved.
Support.
Motion and support. Discussion? Call for a roll call vote on this one, please.
Crowner?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Lees?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
Motion is approved. Consider resolution establishing a West Burlington Business of the Year annual award program.
So moved. Support.
Motion and support. Discussion?
Well, I think this is an awesome idea. We've got so many businesses in West Burlington that have been here like in second, third generations. And I just think that it's great that we can recognize them.
I'm going to try the sound system again real quick here. Nope. Sorry.
Is there a dial in there? Is Brad not there? I take it?
He's not here tonight.
We think the computer's probably, we can try to work on it about a half hour before
Oh, okay.
Brad's out of town. They were calling back and forth.
Okay.
Something's
I was just
up.
thinking that if we have people watching online, which we do have.
Speak up.
You just have to speak up, yeah. All right.
So Greg, talk to me a little bit about this. Is this gonna be a one-time a year? Do we do it more than one time a year?
Well-
Can we?
Well, actually, this is Andy's idea, which I think is that he had brought up previously. I think it's an excellent idea. We've met a couple times now to talk about it. The intent was to do it once a year, maybe get things started. This program could easily evolve over time into something a little bit more, but to get it started and off and running, but Andy probably speak better to it.
I don't want to speak too much because I want to listen to your opinions, because I've got to talk to Mayor and Greg and Kelly about it a few times, but the general purpose was, I really enjoy what the chamber does, recognizing our area businesses, but as representatives of West Burlington, I think we should honor at least somebody every year. And I also didn't want to do it quite the same way that they do it, and do an annual dinner and that, and we just don't really have the internal staff to make that happen. So this was a way to get it out there and start it, and start promoting West Burlington business and recognizing the great strides that are being taken in our community. It's step one for me. So as you mentioned other things, I've got other things I'd like to do, but this, I think if we can get going, I think we can start January and award one in March, and we're off and rolling.
I think part of our idea with this was to make it simple enough that we can pull it off without, having the staff do much with it.
So how many businesses do we have in West Burlington?
Oh, I don't remember, but we received a copy of that list from the chamber at one point.
That was employers, the one
that
that
employers?
I'm thinking of.
Okay.
And the, first one was the hospital on there, then, second was,
SEC.
IAA.
IAAP wouldn't be on there.
It was Des Moines area.
Oh, Des Moines County.
Des Moines area large employers was the one that we received.
I think I sent one out though, West Burlington, well, that would have been just the chamber list, I guess. Yeah, chamber members, that's all that I would have had on that list.
So we don't know, maybe.
I can get a list, I just don't wanna
Yeah.
just guess, but I can get a list from our utility billing that we have a breakdown of number of businesses.
And Andy, do you see this, like, would people nominate folks to this committee, or would this committee kind of sit around and say, hey, what about these guys, what about these guys, what about these guys, let's pick them?
So on the timeline, I've got the month of January as the nominations accepted. So my plan was to just work with Brad and create a quick online form with some very specific information. That would come in and then be tallied up into a spreadsheet for the committee to use to vote on for the award of the year. The reason I picked that third Thursday in March, that is the National Companies That Care Day. And I wanted to find something that fit in our schedule well too, and not do it on the 4th of July when we do everything else, and not step on the chamber's toes in January. And so that was kind of a day that fit.
And I don't want to take away with the business of the year, but let's just say there's 50 businesses in town. That's 50 years. You know, if
For everyone.
For everyone to get recognized, everybody would get recognized. And if there was a way that we could do a business of the year, and then maybe something a little softer at a spotlight type thing.
Newsletter
I
or.
suggested like we put a spotlight of a business every month on our website.
website, social media, or put it out in the newsletter, do a business spotlight. Sure.
Yeah. I'd just like to add something to that as like a spotlight.
Johnny's gonna write a business spotlight once I'm.
With photos?
Yeah.
Good idea.
I like it, John. I like it.
Thanks, John. That's a good idea.
John, there might be.
Well, and are we saying it's only gonna be one business of the year, or will the committee decide, hey, we want 3 businesses of the year this year? You'll see, decide.
Seems like, just to start.
Let's
and
get
it can
started.
Get started and see if how it moves forward, and you can always tweak it.
Category.
Yeah.
2-generation business of the year, brand new business of the year, little one.
Great first step.
Yeah, let's get started.
It's a good step. Very good step for.
Okay, I have a motion in front of us then. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Consider a resolution obligating funds from TIF for the annual Economic Development Appropriation Payment to Campus Community Developers for the Black Hawk Tower Project.
Motion to approve.
Motion support, discussion. Once for, no discussion?
We're just re-upping our contractual agreement, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
So we
and
dropped
appropriation.
Millennial Hall dropped
Yeah.
off this year. It's
Oh,
just
okay.
the same as.
Nothing new here, just annual appropriation.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Consider resolution obligating funds from TIF for the annual Economic Development Appropriation Payment to Greater Burlington Partnership for undertaking economic development programs, initiatives, and support with the city of West Burlington.
Motion approved.
Support.
Motion and support. I'm assuming there's no discussion, but I'll ask for it anyway. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we consider a resolution hiring Public Works Department personnel.
Support.
I didn't have a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll motion hiring both positions.
Okay, and then you can support.
Support.
Okay. Discussion?
We reviewed quite a number of applicants for the position. Vast majority really weren't on point for the position. Identified about 8 or 9 that were probably the top candidates, narrowed it down to 4, conducted 4 interviews, and have 3 excellent candidates for the position, and specific reasons why we're recommending these 2 individuals in addition to as I pointed out in the memo, something more recent with IDNR is a backup for Troy Klein, who does our water, is our grade 2 water reporting, et cetera, with IDNR, and they're looking to have a backup for Troy. Cole brings CAD experience, GIS experience, and would easily fit in that role with Troy. And Jacob Fritz is very interested in the sewer and the wastewater treatment plant and the apprenticeship program with that. So it tied in extremely well. We have another gentleman that would be an excellent candidate. Should we need another employee in the future, I'd like to, my plan is to notify him and let him know that, and that I'd like to keep his application on file, should the opportunity arise in the future for another labor. Both gentlemen happen to be West Burlington residents, which is rather unusual these days, and they are also past seasonal employees, so we do know their work ethic, and they do have experience with the city.
I think one thing that gets lost in here is we received over 80 applications. I think one thing that says is we're seen as a good place to work. Oh, I like that.
So are we adding numbers to our public works?
The wastewater apprenticeship program is an ad, and that is the one where you have to hire the employee first. We've got the final paperwork is being reviewed by the local, by Iowa Workforce Development, and then they'll submit it to the next person up for approval. And you can receive up to $25,000 in support of that. And in talking with DMAC and SEC, through the employee or their student, the educational program is largely paid for. They have a number of resources that largely pays for that over a 2-year process. They graduate from that program, which is largely remote, so it's not going to take as much time away from work here and having to travel. There is some minor travel, but they'll come out with 4 grade 1 certifications with that program, which is an excellent start. So, in both, there's 2 categories in each, in water and sewer. So, excellent program.
So we're adding 2. And
no, adding 1.
We're adding 1, and the one's replacing.
Bill Brissy.
And I guess I thought from previous conversations, maybe I'm wrong, this is a temporary moving up 1, assuming that we're going to lose current employees in the future.
Yeah, we're going to be losing our grade 3 wastewater within 3 to 4 years. And we'll need somebody in that position, and that's one that this class will do the teaching, the training, get him up to his grades, and he will be Rod's shadow so that we have 2 people. We have another guy that has been to classes and doing that doesn't have a grade 3 yet either, but
out of all of those applications, nobody had a grade 1, 2, or 3.
we had nobody with any
another
grades.
critical piece from that, and we need a grade 3 for our wastewater treatment plant and a grade 2 for our water. So this is an excellent way to get it started, offset some of our costs for both training and hiring in the first year. I don't expect to be able to hire somebody with a grade 3 wastewater treatment. So doing it from within is a great opportunity, and this new apprenticeship program is something I think we should continue to take a look at if opportunities arise. But it's an excellent program for business as well.
So I think it's a very good move. I'm glad you got 2 very good candidates. I just needed it explained so that the public knows.
Absolutely.
See no further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We come to the end of our new business. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We have to go back to number 7 on our former consent agenda. Approving a quote from Mississippi Valley Pump for repairs to 4 pumps at the swimming pool at a cost of $24,820.
This started out with the issue of the first pump was the one that you guys were aware of. I'm sure you heard got turned on and didn't get primed, and they were pumping steam out of the drop slide. So we knew that one needed rebuilt, and we pulled a second one to look, and when we pulled baskets, we were totally shocked at what the impellers looked like. So the impellers and the pumps are not putting out what they're supposed to at this point because they're wore off. They're 15 years old, and in the chlorine water, they're brass, and they've been deteriorating. We've had issues the last couple of years trying to figure out why when one pump goes down and we try and run the pool on 2 circulating pumps instead of 3 like it's designed, we'll come in the morning and the pool will be low, and we have to throw a fire hose in, fill the pool back up. Well, now we've discovered why, because the impellers aren't putting out what they're supposed to, which also affects on how fast the chlorine and the chemicals get circulated through the pool for their testing to have the proper levels of chlorine in. So we've just come to a point that all those impellers are bad, and to pull the impellers, it's the seals And I believe there was a picture in that. I think you guys got of showing you the pits and the shafts. So it's kind of come to a point that after 15 years of use, that it's kind of showing us where our problem's been with keeping the water level up. Is inevitably something will go wrong. One of them will go down and we can still function the pool on two, but we can't keep it full without throwing a hose in the morning and filling it on the side.
How much does it cost us to fill that pool on when you do something like that? Because there's
No
quite a
idea.
few gallons of
You
water.
mean when you fill the pool from the beginning?
No, for these refills when you have problems with the pumps.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you that.
Only reason I asked.
It's not that it's a refill as much as there's surge tanks under the pump house and in the yard. The water's in the surge tank, but you can't get it out of the surge tank and keep the pool full with just two running with these impellers wore out. So the water we add in is just to fill it back up, which is going to overflow the surge tanks when the other pump gets kicked back in. And then we'll have waste. And I believe there's a bid in there too, if you have to replace the whole thing, what each one would cost.
Yeah, that was my question of why it was on the consent agenda, because it looked like we had two different options.
Yep. I just had them give me that, the rebuild for each one, what it would cost, and then if we had to do a whole one, so you guys would know, it's a lot better off just to rebuild what we got.
So you think if we do the repair on them, we're gonna get similar lifespan out of them, or we're only gonna get a couple years, or, I know you're guessing.
To me, I would say you would get the same lifespan. Now, every one of these have been pulled apart and seals because they start leaking, or a bearing here and there over the life of this pool. We've been able to keep them repaired each year. As we have an issue with one, we'll send it up. But this time, with that one overheating and pulling them down and inspecting them, where they're just chunks missing out of the impellers, and they went from this to this, so they're not, they're running at 1,700 RPMs, and they're not putting out the flow they're supposed to be.
So over 20 years, have they improved the material or anything to do that?
It's been there about 15 years. It's going to be another brass impeller and improved material. You can answer that, Johnny. There's really nothing improving on cars or they build stuff cheaper.
There is, but it's still a pretty good lifetime.
Yeah.
Pretty good lifespan.
So you recommend we repair, not buy new?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yep.
Do we get a quantity discount for getting 4 done instead?
I did try that, and they just laughed at me.
Yeah.
Okay, same response. At least we're asking.
Yep.
I'm not sure you got a motion, but I'll motion to repair all 4 units.
I didn't thank Andy.
Yep.
Support.
Motion support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Right.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries. And that brings us to the end of our new business. We have any citizens with inquiries? No. So we need to go into closed session, so in accordance with Iowa Code Section 21.51 I, to evaluate the performance competency of an individual whose appointment, hiring, performance, or discharge being considered when necessary to prevent needless and irreparable damage to that individual's reputation, and that individual's request a closed session.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a copy and I'll take it with me.
I have a motion?
Support.